Hello friends and welcome to the Noclip Patron update for November 2017, and welcome in fact to Noclip's new headquarters, new echoey headquarters. We've quite a bit of space here, far more than I had in Oakland. In case you didn't know, I've moved coast. I am now in the beautiful state of Maryland, right outside of Annapolis. It's beautiful. It has rained since I moved here. There are trees outside. The cats love it, and I've got acres of space here. We live upstairs and work is downstairs. And this is the new set that I've been sort of building over the past week or two since we got in here. A lot more work to do. This is just like fucking lights hanging up, and it's all a bit messy and stuff. But we're getting there. We're getting there. So this video, Patron update video, I've been wanting to do these for a while, and I never really had the opportunity to have a dedicated space to do them. So these are going to take the place of the Q&A videos that I've been doing for the past year, where people send in questions, and then I sort of do a quick little roundup of answers. I wanted to do something more fully featured, something that let you know what we were working on that month, what to expect as patrons that month. And to give you sort of deeper insight into what we're doing, because the problem is a lot of the update videos that I've been doing, they kind of get rushed out. I'm really busy doing other things. So actually carving out some time to do a dedicated patron show every month in the form of this video is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. So let me know what you think of the format of this. In this, I'm going to be giving updates on what we're doing, stuff that you can expect to see as a patron over the next month, exclusive stuff. And also, just like those old Q&A videos, answer whatever questions you have. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think when you're finished in the comments below. This is the back shelf, which is in shot for the camera. It's got the Amiga stuff. I got my GameSpot name tag, which means a lot to me. It's got a scratch on it. I have all my lanyards from the various shows there. Alright, first things first, what is Noclip up to for the month of November? The answer is quite a lot. Thank you, first of all, so much for allowing me some breathing space after the Witcher project to sort of, I don't know, move coast. And also take a little step back and sort of plan or have an idea of where I want Noclip to be in a year, the advantages that living in Maryland will provide to us, especially in terms of business stuff, and to use that time to set up what the next sort of plans are going to be. A lot of my head's been dedicated to that. That's kind of a 2018 thing. For 2017, I've had a plan for the past probably 3 or 4 months, based on the stuff that we've been shooting already and based on stuff that we are shooting. So between now and the end of the year, the end of December, we'll have 3 major projects out, and we'll have a lot of the Noclip sessions out as well. 3 of those projects we're working on at the moment. One of them is going to slip into December, but 2 of them you're going to get in November. The 2 that I believe you're going to get in November, because there may be a little bit of changing based on what we're filming next week. But the 2 that I'm planning to get out in November is the Grand Theft Auto Online video we shot in Tennessee before we went to Poland.
I got the whole crew with me today.
The whole crew.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. You gotta check the cake. Check the cake.
That's going to be one video. It's got a fun one. It's totally different style to anything we've ever done. It's way more run and gun, way more just like having fun with people. We did sit down interviews in it as well. And there's some cool behind the scenes stuff for that as well, but I'll get to that in the next section. So that's video number 1. Video number 2 is a profile of Player Unknown. Player Unknown, of course, the creator of Battlegrounds, Brendan Green. He's an Irishman. While we were in PAX doing all the Witcher stuff, we set aside some time to catch up with him. I picked him up at the expo, drove him out to our Airbnb, and we interviewed him for about 90 minutes. And that's going to turn into a really cool profile video about his growing up. He actually grew up on an army base, which answers a lot of questions, in Ireland, the Curragh, and his development philosophy and how he ended up, moving to South Korea and making a game. It's a fascinating story. It's super interesting.
This is something I've never kind of looked at, even in modding or stuff like that. I don't worry about other games. It's like we're making our game. We're trying to make a good game. This is my vision. I don't worry about anyone else. It's like there are other obvious competitors out there, but they do their own thing and we do our thing, and there's no point in trying to fight. Like I keep saying, like we make video games for a living, and play video games for a living and cover video games for a living. We have the best jobs in the world. It's like, and I don't understand this animosity sometimes between devs and devs taking pot shots at each other and stuff like that. It's like, guys, like we make video games for a living. Like, cop the fuck on, right?
This will also be the first ever Noclip video that will have a part of it edited by someone who is not me, which is a big part of what I'm trying to do in 2018 as well. It's a special sequence. You know, I like to hire people who are really good at what they do, and there's no one better at editing PUBG highlights than Dear Someone, the fantastic YouTube channel that makes the awesome Battlegrounds highlight videos every single week, or every other week. That's a producer. He's a producer in Los Angeles. I've been a big fan of him for a long time. I love his videos. And he's on board to cut the intro for the video, so I'm super excited about showcasing that as well. So those are the two projects that you're going to see released in November, but we're actually filming something really soon. Next Monday, in fact, we're flying in just 4 days' time to Europe to film one more big doc. It's probably going to be just one video, just like the Battlegrounds profile and our Grand Theft Auto Online video. That's the plan, at least. We'll see when we get out there and actually film if it does turn into something that needs to be split up. But I can't say right now, unfortunately, what game it is. It's something we've had to sign NDAs for. But you know, we like to finish each year with a big game, big sort of contemporary game, and we're going to do the same this year. So in December you'll see that, but we'll be in Europe next week filming something. I can't say where until Tuesday. So on Tuesday, if you live in a major European city, in a capital, then keep your eyes peeled, because we'll be doing a Noclip meetup next week. I wish I could say it earlier. I can't. The minute I can, I'll put that post up. So keep your eyes peeled. Got some chicken I haven't made yet. Yep. I got these weird chocolates that the guy gave us, which are like it's like milk or something.
It's like a marshmallow thing.
Yeah. Sure.
How's it taste?
Pretty good.
Tastes like Warsaw.
I mean, I've already eaten like a whole slab of these. There's two of them. So what about Patreon exclusive stuff coming in November? Well, as it turns out, we're sitting on quite a backlog of video that we cut, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, which we'll be getting out over the course of November. We'll be getting out the behind the scenes of The Witcher stuff, which we have yet to actually put out. I know it's one of the things that fell by the wayside with the whole coast moving thing, and also the behind the scenes of our filming in Knoxville. I think the original idea was to maybe split those up, but they might actually end up getting amalgamated into one, because that actually was one big trip. So I think that's going to be the plan on that one. We're also sitting on a bunch of extended interviews from the Witcher docs. One or two of those will probably get out during the month. It all depends on the release schedule for some of the other stuff. I don't want it to mix it up, or putting up a Grand Theft Auto video and then a Witcher video appears and then something else appears. But all that stuff, as you know, the extended interviews, we usually give quite a lot of Patreon exclusivity to. We used to produce them for patrons a whole month ahead of everyone else, before I swapped that tier to be not just early access to extended interviews, but early access to everything. If you're a patron in that tier, then you know you got all the Witcher stuff 24 hours before everyone else did, which I think is a better value proposition for people. So it all depends what we get out in terms of that stuff, but there will be, of course, those. The whole point of setting up the studio is that I have somewhere to do not just these videos, but also the patron hangouts. So I'm going to be doing those this month. Apologies for the lack of those. The last 3 months I've been very spotty with them, in fact. So I'm sorry about that. A big part of that was moving house and having equipment all over the place and just having not much time for it. It's the type of thing that I like to dedicate proper sort of like 2 or 3 hours to doing. So those will be coming back filmed here. We're going to go back to using I think it was Google Hangouts we used prior, because the Shoutcast stuff didn't allow people to actually interact. We didn't actually get to have a conversation, which I didn't like so much, even though we did that one in Poland and that was quite fun. So those will be coming back this month as well. And aside from all that, there's quite a lot of work going on here in the background to create a sort of a platform where I'm able to make a bunch of old shows that I used to make back when I worked at GameSpot, or that I tried to do since leaving, in a much more efficient manner. The best thing about having space is having dedicated areas to film this stuff and to produce this stuff. Like right now I'm sitting in front of my television, which has a monitor for what the camera is, because I've got it all wired up. I've got cables down here for XLR stuff. I've got 2 big light panels hanging up here. I mean, this is a bit of a mess back here. This guy's probably overblown. But this is a studio. This isn't where I play games. This isn't where our living room. Our living room is upstairs in the house. This is actually a studio. I have a dedicated streaming setup right here to the side of me in my edit suite. I'm going to be building another machine here for streaming. So the idea is that I'll be able to come down here and stream a bunch of stuff. Maybe that ends up being Ocarina of Time. Maybe it's loads of Battlegrounds. Like anyone who's been watching my Twitch channel for the past week knows I've streamed Battlegrounds like probably more in the past 8 days than I did for 5 months prior. It's just being able to have dedicated space. It makes an absolute world of difference. So building out the studio, there's a lot of stuff still to do. The audio baffling is one massive element of it. I have to hang down sheets and stuff. Setting up a proper camera system where you can able to switch the stuff, maybe getting a TriCaster. And then also there's a lot of other business stuff happening as well. I'm incorporating here in Maryland. It's something I didn't do in California. I've been running as a sole trader because I knew I was probably moving state, and I didn't. It's very, very difficult to move corporations from one state to another. So getting all that sort of stuff done, and also looking at hiring people as well. So there's a lot going on. I think a lot of the big business stuff is going to happen in 2018. But in terms of the setup, I'm really excited to get back into producing more stuff like Danny's Disc Club. Maybe bringing back old shows I used to do, like Bluffer's Guide, to some of my older favorite franchises, and maybe doing stuff like Ocarina of Time because people won't fucking stop asking me to do it. So I'm super excited. I'm so energetic about this. Having the space and freedom to do it has made a world of difference. So look out for more of that stuff, and I'd love to hear feedback on what people would like, especially patrons, in terms of those programs. So let me know, please. Okay, and now question time. About time, probably. I don't know how long this video is already, but we're going to dive into them now. Thank you so much, as ever, for leaving your questions. As everyone knows, you can contact me directly if you have any questions that you don't want for the Q&As. Just go into the Patreon messaging service and respond to me there. I got quite a lot during my move. I have replied to them all now, so apologies if it was a couple of days before I got back to everyone. Those messages are on the top of my priority list. But thank you so much for the questions, and I'm going to dive into them right now. Tony Colton says, Kade Maratatu, Gurvmila Mahagot Makarja. That's Irish for those of you wondering why I'm speaking Elvish. Hope the big move is going great and that you enjoy the new lifestyle. Would you like to or have plans to do a multi-part doc about an unreleased game, building the hype by releasing bits up to the unreleased date? Loving all your work so far, and it would be great to see more behind the scenes stuff. Can't wait to see the future and what it brings to you and Noclip. Thanks so much, Tony. So yes and no. Am I interested in doing docs about games that are unreleased? 100%. It's one of the biggest missions or goals that I have for 2018 is to, now that we've established with a lot of publishers the way Noclip works and the sort of the type of the type of conversations that people have when they watch the videos, we tend to attract a much more sort of this is going to sound really pretentious, but I don't know, like insightful audience than most stuff. And they're willing, I think, a bit more to let us peek under the hood a bit. So one of the things that I want to do is step away from what we've done so far, which is a lot of retrospective stuff, be it long tail retrospective like The Witcher or immediate retrospective like Doom, and actually get into a studio and record stuff. Part of that is the whole setting up an LLC so that I can legally separate myself liability wise from that stuff. It involves a lot more signing NDAs and whatnot, which we've had to do recently with the project we're filming next week, and it involves a lot more sort of thinking seriously about the way we produce content across the board, the way we distribute it as well, because the way we license things and whatnot, having people sign off and do stuff like that. So that's a massive goal for me. On the East Coast, there's actually quite a lot of studios here. There aren't really that many studios on the West Coast of the States. Comparatively, there's a lot more here because there's just more urban centers on the East Coast. You know, Boston used to have a much bigger game development hub, not so much anymore. I mean, here in Maryland, we've got everything from Firaxis, Bethesda. There's a bunch of gaming communities down here like ADDQD as well. And in terms of, studios, North Carolina, go down to Epic. The New York area, Rockstar. I mean, that's not really a studio, it's more of their business center. But there's loads going on here. Philadelphia, there's quite a lot. So one part of what I want to do is most certainly doing more behind the scenes of games before they're launched. Releasing them as the game comes out, not so much. That starts to get into a weird sort of a marketing situation where we're essentially selling the game. So doing pre-release stuff, I think, is a delicate balance. I kind of know how I'd like to do it, that I'd like to release stuff maybe as the game comes out, right after it comes out, or maybe as a game is announced, perhaps, but not necessarily in the lead up to launch specifically, because I don't want to be making content that's, you know, getting people to pre-order, for instance. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. Rob Curran asked the question, has being on the East Coast woods left you with a sort of separation anxiety from the nearby SF gaming zone? I didn't think it would, and it really hasn't, but every once in a while I get a little bit of a pang. Earlier today I was cutting the grass. When we rented this place, I bought the John Deere off the previous owner, so I have a ride-on lawnmower, which is like the most absurd thing in the world to me. So I was on that riding around, and I was listening to Greg Miller, Jeff Gersman, and Brad Shoemaker on the Giant Bombcast this week, which is something that I used to, you know, I of course did Kind of Funny Games Daily with Greg for 3 or 4 months, and of course I'm a Giant Bomb, I'm a big and massive Giant Bomb fanboy. I have one of my Giant Bomb posters flattened out under a carpet over there. It's going to go up on the back here. All my GameSpot stuff is up there, actually. All those you know, my name tag is actually up there from GameSpot. So this whole background is going to be covered and all that sort of stuff. And I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, yeah, like, I guess I'm not around anymore. Like, I can't just like check in on people and say, hey. The reality is that I didn't do a lot of that anyway. I'm quite a homebody most of the time. Similar to kind of somebody like Greg isn't. Greg goes out and sees people a lot. But Jeff, for instance, I feel like is another. A lot of us, and Brad kind of too, like we're extroverts in work, but actually when it comes to you know, social time, tend to keep to ourselves, especially those of us who are married, right? So part of me feels like it's sad that I can't collaborate with people. But the other thing I'm actually really excited about since moving here is that because that distance exists, I also feel like I don't necessarily need to lean on bigger companies like I did before. You know, doing Giant Bomb stuff was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And doing Kind of Funny stuff was great too. But it was also, you know, convenient for me in a way to let somebody else produce my stuff. The future of Noclip perhaps involves getting to that stage. So maybe actually stepping away from that bubble in a way is helping me to realize that I can build something here too. There's actually quite a lot of space in terms of gaming publications where I am in the sort of greater DC area. So I don't know, maybe we end up making something that big over here. I don't know. But yeah, every once in a while I listen, and I think more than anything else, I just miss my mates. But I'll see them. I'll go back. Tohir Tilyav asked the question, knowing that you are a person who will not shy away from a challenge. Thank you. How do you think you'll challenge yourself in 2018 when it comes to Noclip? Will it be different kind of content, more complex shoots, more complex and elaborate edits, or something else? I think growing the business and figuring out what that is going to be my biggest challenge for next year. In terms of content, I want us to produce a lot more stuff more regularly. I want to increase the quality as well, and I want to increase the sort of the diversity of video that we create as well. So a part of that is doing stuff like the Grand Theft Auto Online video. A part of that is you know, hiring people to film stuff and edit stuff, different types of stuff as well, and also figuring out the balance between the personal stuff that I do, the sort of op-edy stuff that I do, and also the Noclip doc stuff, because I feel like every couple of months I think, like, do we start putting like op-ed stuff in the Noclip channel, or do we always keep that separate? Do we make a second Noclip channel that's like all the op-ed stuff or community stuff, or, you know, how much patron only stuff do we do, and how much stuff do we do for the community at large that isn't just the patrons? So there's loads of different like questions I have like that. Being here in Maryland, getting on the ground, being able to like put lights up, put down cabling, see it all happen, is a massive benefit to that. And I'm really happy that I have the next 2 months planned out so I can think about next year. But a large part of next year I feel like is tackling more work. But also the other side of that is, you know, not just doing the same stuff we've been doing up until now. I really want to do bigger games. I really want to do stuff that's more investigative as well, and doing projects that aren't just we fly somewhere, we film, we make a video. Projects that we work on for 3 or 4 months at a time, perhaps with external people as well. So that's a big push for next year as well. The problem with that sort of stuff is then you don't have much to show for. And the thing about Patreon is that I have to have stuff to show, or else the next month I'll lose a bunch of patrons, which is like the way this stuff sort of works. So we saw a drop again this month after Witcher stuff. It went up, and then I was away, moving home for like the best part of 2 weeks. And naturally there's a bit of a fall off on the other end. So a big part of what I want to achieve as a content creator on Patreon is ensuring that we can do that long tail stuff, but the business doesn't suffer, because we have a sort of a real good steady flow of monthly content, which people can also look forward to. Videos like this hopefully can be part of that as well. But outside of that, more editorial stuff from me might help, and also just getting editing help. So more of our stuff that's right now sitting on hard drives can get onto your screens. Westy asked the question, will you be continuing Danny's Disc Club? Yes, I will. Although I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the name. I've had some ideas about how I can use that show in a bunch of different ways. And the reason is because Danny's Disc Club, when I made it, I thought, oh, this is a really good way of combining my sort of point stuff and the old Bluffer's Guide stuff into one thing, because I don't have that much time to work on this sort of stuff with all these docs and with having all this shit to do all the time. So this will work out. Like I produced it in a way that it was like, oh, I'll be playing that game, I'll just capture the footage and I'll just write a script about it and I'll do it. It turns out after being here for 2 weeks and kind of editing here and figuring out my work schedule, I actually have a thirst to do a bunch more stuff, and to do stuff that I don't really have to rush out so much. Like I feel like I could kind of do like the point here and also do the docs and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if that format is exactly the way I'll do it. So I kind of feel a little bit silly for starting it, to be completely honest. But I'm 100% going to be doing an op-ed show from here. I mean, this whole set that I've built here, aside from these Patreon update videos, the reason I built this is to do episodes of whatever the new thing is, like be it called Danny's Disc Club or whatever, and having proper camera setups and having lighting, and that's what this set is going to be for entirely. And maybe I'll do live streams from here as well, but most of the time I do them on my PC because I like doing it there. So, I think I'll definitely be bringing it back. Whether or not it's the same name or not, I'm not really sure. Whether or not it's the same format, I'm not really sure. But anything we do from now on, be it this patron show or new types of shows or anything, is going to be locked in. This isn't like it was in California, where I knew I was leaving. I knew that my working life was going to change once we had a dedicated space, dedicated studio. Now we're here. So anything that happens here is part of a foundation we're going to be building on. And that's what I'm most excited about, is actually having like not just a sort of this evolving, changing thing based on how I'm feeling and how much stress I have and how much work I have, but creating a platform with maybe some help from extra people, and building it out into a production house that has a really good steady flow of content. So that's the sort of big answer to your relatively small question. Peter Karamidas asked the question, what will your expo schedule be like? Do you think you'll be attending the next PAX, New York and San Diego Comic-Con, E3 and PlayStation Experience? Also be sure to come down to NYC for a meetup now that you're a stone's throw away. I guess I'll be going up to New York City though, right? It's only about a 3-hour train ride, so I'm trying to get Riker down sometime, maybe to do some content or some, drinking, hanging out here in the woods. But in terms of the expo schedule, I think I'm going to pick my battles a bit next year. Not so much because it's not very expensive in terms of flying to these things. We always did a good job, I feel like, of getting some good meat out of them. Like the PAX thing, we got the PlayerUnknown video, and we also did all our Witcher stuff, which was amazing. Just putting on that massive. We produced the biggest panel of PAX, like the biggest panel, including ones that have been going on for years or official ones. So that was like a real sort of feather in the cap. I think me and Jeremy were very happy with that. I mean, it helps when the game's the fucking Witcher, but we also managed to fill that place up. So that was pretty cool. But it takes time. It takes our sort of attention span away a little bit. So that's the sort of thing that I think we're going to pick our battles next year. I never really go to the Comic Cons because it's not really our industry. I'll definitely be at E3 this year. I'll probably going to be renting the same spot we got last year because it was so cost effective and really good to be able to step away. But I think we've got bigger plans for E3 next year in terms of what we're going to be shooting there and filming and using with our time. So I'll definitely be at that. I'll definitely be going to PAX East this year. It's just up the road in Boston. I'll probably get the train up or drive up or do something. I actually looked into getting booth space if it was possible, the same way like Mega 64 go up there and they sell shirts and just hang out with people and stuff, but unfortunately all those people have been grandfathered in, and it's actually there's no way of getting boot space in PAX at all. In fact, the email I got from the PAX guy was the most like, why are you even asking fucking reply, and I was like, ooh, sorry dude, it's just interested in your awesome expo. So I'll be going back there. I love PAX East. It's always a good time. But what way that I want to do it next year where it's less filming and more just hanging out with people. Probably do a bigger focus on the meetup stuff. And who knows, maybe sell some shirts or something. Maybe not. We'll see what happens. So definitely PAX East. I mean, maybe PAX West. It depends on what's going on next year, or it depends on what's going on up there, if that's a big thing. I'm probably not going to be at GDC this year. We had a really good fun doing the Noclip sessions last year. But now that I don't live in San Francisco, it's actually quite expensive to stay in San Francisco. So I've got friends who live there. I could probably crash at Alexis's place or something. But I'm not sure I think in 2018 we're going to try as much as possible to not do things we did at 2017, be it style of video or the games or genres or the places. I think we're going to try and mix it up every single time. That's what's exciting for me as a sort of producer, and I think that's ultimately what's exciting for you folks as viewers. So I'm not really sure. I probably won't go to the PlayStation Experience. I don't know. The Game Awards are on then as well. I never know. We've got friends who live down the road from the Game Awards, so it was a nice excuse to visit them last year. So I don't know what the story is this year if it's on. And also at the Game Awards last year, I had a bunch of really good conversations, which kind of like helped me get involved in some projects that we either didn't do or we may do in the future. So it may be good to just do that one, if nothing else, than to just kind of like, rub shoulders with some people for the last time this year, and so then I don't have to worry about that early next year. But we'll see. I'm less interested in doing a lot of traveling next year to expos and more, spending time producing stuff. Oh, and there's also a bunch of expos here in the DC area, which I'll definitely be getting involved in. A bunch of people have been emailing me about them and stuff, and I'll definitely turn up at those. We'll do a Maryland meetup as well at some stage if you're in the area for sure. And ADDQD is based here as well, so maybe we'll end up doing something there filming wise as well. Have to wait and see. Anthony asked the question. Anthony Curioso. He had a curioso question. Hi, Danny. So sorry, Anthony. Hi, Danny. Love everything you've done so far. My question. Pretty much all of the games and stories you've covered are things from recent history within the 2010s or so, as best as I can tell. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Was it a conscious decision when you started Noclip to focus on more recent stuff? Do you have any plans for desires to dive further back into gaming history, like weird Atari or Nintendo stories from the 80s, Sega or Sony stories from the 90s, etc.? Keep up the great work. I think you're doing some amazing stuff, showing the human side of the gaming industry. Thank you so much, Anthony. It was a really big part of it, because retrospective stories about video games for the longest time have done that. And there's actually way better people out there doing that sort of stuff on Patreon as well, and certainly on YouTube, diving back into that sort of stuff. So what I thought was always interesting is asking developers today, about stuff that they worked on yesterday, not stuff that they worked on 10 years ago. It's also very hard to interview people about stuff that they created 5 years ago, let alone 10, let alone 20. So when we interviewed people about The Witcher 1, there's a reason that Witcher 1 video is about business and not about the development, because we asked a lot of people questions about it and they honestly couldn't remember. They couldn't give you big sort of and those lovely anecdotes we like to get about games development when it came to that game, because it had been so long since they really thought about it at all. So it's really hard, and the type of production cycle we have is that a lot of the work gets done on the interview days, whereas if you're doing a retrospective piece about something that happened 20 years ago, a lot of the work is research that you're doing outside of the interviews, and that sort of lengthens the production timeline a little bit. So that was the original idea. Do I want to do more retrospective stuff in the future, like deeper retrospective stuff? 100%. It goes into another goal that I have, which is doing more investigative stuff as well, like having more videos that we don't just fly somewhere and interview someone and that's it, and we bring them home when we edit them. As wonderful a production timeline as that is, and has allowed us to make so many documentaries in such a small amount of time, what I want to do more is to just stay here in our sort of, in my, studio here, formulate something, write about it, edit it, research it, and then, here's somebody who can help us with this section, and then go and find them and interview them. It's a different type of storytelling. So absolutely, love to do more older stuff, but like everything here at Noclip, we'll be picking our battles with that one. Felipe Rojo with the question, would you consider an offer for putting up your first year on Consequent docs with all the extras on Blu-ray discs, an offer to sell to your patrons or beyond? I'm not sure if I've ever answered this actually on one of these Q&As. I feel like I probably have. But the answer for the previous stuff in the past is 100% no, because of the nature of the way in which we produce this stuff, the way in which we don't sign off on everything. We just use fair use copyright sort of laws to be able to use licensed footage from other games and be able to use licensed footage from all manner of things in our edits. That helps us make stuff really quickly and less expensive than most video game documentaries, which take years and years to produce. So the back end of that is that we can't sell them because we're not sort of like licensing everything and ticking all the boxes required to actually make money from them. That was the whole point in setting this whole thing up on Patreon, was being able to sort of get paid to create whatever I want and then put it out there for free for everyone, which is also the reason we've not done advertising on that stuff as well. In the future, though, I'm starting to think about the way in which we produce stuff, and I really like all the free docs that we do on YouTube, and I think it's the most important thing. I think it involves a lot of, it allows a lot of people to get access to this stuff who may not. I love the fact that the stuff gets translated. I love the fact that it's free on YouTube, so people who don't have money to be spending on Blu-rays or don't have money at all because they're too young, or don't have this that type of income, have just access to this sort of stuff. They don't have to be on a Netflix. They don't have to be anything. They can just watch the videos on YouTube on their phone or PC or whatever, or PlayStation, and it's free, and that's amazing, and I absolutely love it. But I am starting to think about other revenue sources and other ways in which we can do it while still retaining the sort of purity of what I do, and making sure that we're not, getting involved in marketing games and whatnot. So I feel like I've sort of proven that it is possible to do this sort of stuff, advertising free and everything. And I'm not willing to renege on that or by any means. But now I'm trying to think of what the next thing to prove is. What's the next frontier for games documentary creation in terms of getting it out to people. A lot of people have been asking, for instance, about doing the Blu-ray stuff, and obviously that can't be the case for anything we've done in the past, and the biggest hurdle to that for me is the idea that we're then marketing games, which I want to stay away from. I like the fact that we are somewhere in between a sort of film production company and also a video games outlet. But I want to find out what the next thing is. Like, I feel like we've tapped into a vein, and that there's room to expand within that. So perhaps that involves creating videos that, we sell on Steam or something, or we, creating supplemental videos about games that, that the games can interact with in some way, or creating series about games before they come out, or something like that. There's a load of different ways to sort of tackle it, or doing deals with someone like Netflix or Amazon to make a different type of series, for instance, right? Which would, of course, have to tick all the boxes in terms of licensing. So that's another big goal for 2018, is figuring that sort of stuff out. I feel like, with Noclip, I shone a light on an area of games coverage and not a lot of people had thought about. A lot of people have thrown away. I am now starting to see a lot of other people doing it, which I think is amazing. I love seeing, Gameumentary, for instance, they had a wonderfully successful Kickstarter, and are now on Patreon as well. Seeing IGN doing all of their developer interview stuff on Facebook, which is doing really well for them. Of course, GameSpot continuing with the GameSpot Studios stuff, and just other people trying to, seeing that we did it and trying to emulate it. And I still feel like a lot of folks don't know the secret sauce. They haven't been able to figure it out, and that we're in a position to still elevate this type of content even higher and higher. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll end up doing something like that. Maybe we'll end up doing something you hadn't thought of, but is equally as cool. As ever, love hearing what you folks think. So if you have any thoughts yourselves, please put them in the comments. And that's the update video for November 2017. It's by no means the last video you get as patrons this month. Like I said, you'll be getting a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff we shot, and of course those 2 projects that are going on. If you're in the tier for the Hangout, expect an email shortly about when we'll do that. If you're in a major European city next week, make sure you check our update on Tuesday, where I'll be able to see where we are. And in fact, if you missed it already, there is a patron exclusive video, a tour of this place a couple of days back. I literally just hung up those lights on the side of that. They're not supposed to look like that. I'm gonna nail them in or something, or no, I'm gonna get a shelf here, and a fucking red right now reflects really badly off this light over here as well, except from this angle. So there's still a lot of work to do, and of course the echo. So we're not done yet. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it entertaining. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you for being part of Noclip for the first year. I know I said we had our first year and now it's year 2. I tell you what, landing here in Maryland and having this set up and being able to build here and having shirts out and doing all that fun shit, now it feels like we're actually, the rubber's hitting the road on what Noclip is going to evolve into, and I couldn't be more excited. So thank you so much for all of your patronage. I really, really appreciate it. Every single cent that you send us, we're spending on super important stuff. I just got a bunch more cabling, HDMI stuff, new setup for this camera, new lighting panels and whatnot, and I'm buying a bunch of baffling to hang up and all that. So everything you give us is being put to great use, and I really, really appreciate it. A part of that is being in this new location with this new studio, and being able to expand the type of stuff we're working on. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have any questions, by all means, put them below. If I did not answer your question in this Q&A and you put it in the video, I will answer it in text underneath the video, so go back and check if you haven't done that. And enjoy the rest of your month. And if you're in a major European city next week, see you then.